All right, so good morning or good afternoon, guys. This is Mr. Collazo, and today, as y'all can see, we are doing a mixed review about all the properties of exponents that we've been learning the past week, okay? So, what we're gonna be doing is simplifying these expressions, or simplifying these exponents using the exponent rule, so one rule or multiple rules, okay? So I'm gonna do 9 examples here on this paper, okay? So if there's some that you think, oh, these are easy, I don't need to watch this video, or go ahead and maybe skip around if you need to. Or if you see one that you like, oh, that looks like one on my assignment, then you can kind of fast forward ahead, rewind, whatever you need to do. Use the video as best you need, right? You don't have to watch it like a movie, okay? So first, number 1, I have the expression 2x squared y to the third power z to the fourth times 7x y to the third z, okay? So if you're in my class, remember what I told y'all? If you see any type of variable without an exponent, I want you to go ahead and put in a small 1. So I have to put a 1 by the x and the z, okay? So now, looking at this, there's only one rule I can use, and that is the product rule, okay? So let's do that. So the product rule, right? I'm multiplying these two things in parentheses. So I start with my coefficients, the numbers in front. So remember, with the coefficients, we just multiply those like normal. So 2 times 7, easy, 14, okay? Then we move to my x's. So I have x to the second power, x to the first, okay? So this is the product rule. When you have two terms that have the same base, you add the exponents. So here I have an exponent of 2, I have an exponent of 1. So I add those together, x, 2 plus 1, okay? Then I go to my next variable. So I have y to the third, y to the third. Same base, I'm gonna add my exponents, okay? And then the last one, my z's. So I have z to the fourth, z to the first, same base, add the exponents, okay? And I write my final answer. So I have 14, 2 plus 1, x to the third, 3 plus 3, y to the sixth, and then 4 plus 1, z to the fifth. So that is my final answer. That is the simplified expression, okay? Easy, one rule so far. Number 2, I have b to the 12th over b to the 4th, okay? So this one is the quotient rule. So remember quotient division, okay? So the quotient rule tells me if I have two variables or two terms that have the same base and we're dividing them, we can subtract their exponents. So when I'm solving this, it's actually going to be b to the 12th minus 4, okay? Which is b, 12 minus 4, b to the 8th. So this simplifies as b to the 8th. Wow, my bad, you couldn't even see that. B to the 8th. There we go. Okay? Easy. One step, one rule. Okay? Now we'll slide down to number 3. So as y'all can see, they're getting a little bigger as we slide down. So this one right here, I have 2 times 2yx squared all raised to the second power. Okay? So first of all, let's give this a little 1. Okay? And then we notice there's 2 rules hopefully y'all see there's 2 rules that I have to do. The first rule that we're gonna do here is the power to power rule, because hopefully y'all notice I have this exponent of 2 outside the parentheses. Remember, when you have an exponent outside the parentheses, that automatically tells me I need to do power to power rule, okay? So this power to power rule does not affect this 2 on the outside of the parentheses, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring this down first. So I'm gonna bring down the 2, okay? Because I'm not gonna touch that yet. But now that I'm gonna do the power to power rule, I'm gonna start with the coefficient of 2, okay? So remember, when I have a coefficient raised to a power, we just you raise it normally. So it's just gonna be 2 to the second power. Just like that, okay? Then, remember, when I have y to the first power raised to the second. So when I take an exponent and I raise it to another exponent, I'm actually multiplying those exponents. So it's actually y raised to the 1 times 2, okay? And then I do the same thing with x. So x to the second power raised to the second power, 2 times 2, okay? And then we'll work it out a little bit. So I get 2 times 2 squared, which is 4. Y, 1 times 2 is y to the second. X to the 2 times 2, x to the fourth, okay? And now I see I have a mini product rule, right? Because I have 2 times 4 times y squared, x to the fourth. All I can multiply are these two coefficients, right? So 2 times 4 gives me 8. I have y squared, that's the only y, so I bring it down. X to the fourth, that's the only x, I bring that down. So this is the answer, 8y squared, x to the fourth. Okay, simplified, 2 rules, right? Power to power rule, and then a small product rule, okay? Easy. Number 4, again, it looks a little bit bigger, right? We have a couple rules to do, okay? So, number 4, what I would do first is I would use the product rule here on the numerator, okay, on the top of the fraction bar, okay? So let's do that first. So, well, let me write my little 1. Sorry, forgot about that. Write my little 1 here, okay? Now, we're gonna multiply, we're gonna do a product rule on the numerator. So I have a coefficient of 3, a coefficient of 6. 3 times 6 gives me 18, okay? On the numerator, I have x to the second power, x to the third power. 2 terms with the same base, I add the exponents. So I have x to the 5th, okay? Over, I bring down 9x to the first power, okay? Now it's the quotient rule, okay? So quotient rule, right? I have my coefficients, I divide those like normal, right? It's like the product rule. So 18 divided by 9 gives me 2, okay? X to the 5th over x to the first, right? Quotient rule, we subtract. So 5 minus 1 gives me x to the 4th. So my final answer is 2x to the 4th power, okay? Because we divided the coefficients like normal, and I subtracted 5 minus 1 in my exponents, okay? So that's number 4. And number 5. So 5, looking at this massive thing, it looks pretty confusing, and there's a reason for that. So if we just read it, it's -4 times -3 x to the 6 y to the third, all to the third power, times 5x squared times 2x squared, all raised to the third power, all raised to the 0 power, okay? This is huge, this 0 right here. That 0 saves the day. Because remember, anything raised to the 0 power, if it's in parentheses, okay, is 1. So all of this right here is 1 because it's in parentheses, okay? Since it's all raised to the 0 power, the answer to that is 1. So it saves you a whole lot of time. You don't have to do any math, okay? But make sure you pay attention where that 0 is, okay? So that's 5. I'm done with that one. 6, okay? So 6, I have 3 times -2x times m times x, okay? So here, I have a lot of 1s that I need to fill in, okay? I gotta fill in those 1s everywhere. Everywhere I have a single variable, okay? Now, if I look, right, I don't have any exponents on the outside of the parentheses, so there's no power to power rule, okay? I don't have any zeros, so there's no 0 rule, and I don't have a fraction bar, so it can't be a quotient rule. So all this is a product rule. So we're gonna start by multiplying. So we'll start with the coefficients. I have 3 and -2x. Or sorry, 3 and -2. 3 times -2 is -6. Okay? Then I go to my x. So I have x squared here, x to the first here. Okay? So remember, product rule, when you have two terms with the same base, add the exponents. So x to the 2 plus 1. Okay? Same thing with the m's, right? I have an m here, m here. So 2 terms with the same base, add the exponents. 1 plus 1. So final answer, -6, x to the third, m to the second. There's my answer. Okay? Easy. 1 step. It just looks a little funky because they have the individual ones, but treat them the same way. Okay? Now, number 7. Number 7, I have 2x, all of that squared, times 2x all to the 0 power, okay? So this one, right, you might see number 5 and you see the 0 power and say, oh, that whole thing is 1, okay? That is not right. That's how they will trick you, okay? So what this 0 means for this is that, so I'm still gonna have 2x squared, but all of this is gonna be times 1, okay? So basically what that means is this kind of cancels out. So all I have to solve, or to simplify, is 2x squared, okay? That's all I have to solve, because this turns into 1, so it kind of cancels itself out, okay? So here, right, I have an exponent outside of the parentheses. That tells me power to power rule, okay? So I put my little 1 here, and we do power to power. So coefficient raised to an exponent, okay? We just do it like normal. So 2 to the second power, 2 squared, okay? I have x to the first power raised to the second, so power to the power, x to the 1 times 2. So my final answer, I get 2 squared, which is 4. X, 1 times 2 is x squared. So 4x squared is what all of this simplifies to, not 1, okay? So look at the difference here, right? On number 5, everything was in parentheses to the 0 power, right? Here, the only thing that was to the 0 power was 2x, okay? So that's the difference here. So make sure you pay attention to that, okay? Number 8. So number 8, I have, this one's a little weird. So I have 3wm times 8x times 2x squared, okay? So again, first of all, let's put our 1s right there. 3 spots, okay? Ooh, 4 spots. Almost missed that one, okay? Now, hopefully y'all notice, right? I have a 2 outside of the parentheses, right? So that tells me I'm gonna have a power to power rule, okay? But this only applies to this 2x, okay? These 2 parentheses in the front do not apply to this power to power rule, okay? So what I'm gonna do first is I'm just gonna rewrite those underneath, okay? So I don't mess with them, okay? Now I'm gonna do the power to power with this on the right side, okay? So let's do power to power. So I have a coefficient raised to an exponent. 2 to the second power gives me 4, okay? I'm going a little quicker. And then I have the x to the first power raised to the second power. Power to power rule, we multiply. 1 times 2 is 2, so 4x squared, right? And that makes sense because it's the same thing as this one. So 2x squared, 2x squared, same thing, okay? But now, right, looking at this is a product rule, right? It's a big product rule. So here, let's start multiplying. So I have coefficients, so I have 3, 8, and 4, okay? I have 3 coefficients, so I need to multiply all 3 of those, okay? So 8 times 3 times 4, you can put in your calculator if you need to, or you can just do a little math. You get 96, okay? It's a little bigger, okay? Then we go to my next term. So I have w to the first power. That's the only w in this whole problem. So I bring it down. I write w, right? And I have 1, so I don't really need to write the 1, okay? Next is the m. Same thing. That's the only m in this whole problem, so I write m, okay? Then lastly, I go to my x's. So I have x to the first and x to the second power, okay? So 2 terms, same base. I'm multiplying them, so I add the exponents. So I get x to the 1 plus 2, x to the third power. And that's that one, okay? That's number 8. Last one, number 9, okay? So we have a fraction, so we see it's gonna be a quotient rule, okay? So let's get right to it. So here, let's start with the coefficients, right? So I'm just actually gonna start by writing the fraction bar, okay? So here, I have 3 divided by 9, okay? We do it like normal division, right? Because they're coefficients. So 3 divided by 9 reduces to 1 over 3, right? 3 over 9 is the same as 1/3, okay? Then I go to my next terms, right? I have x to the third and x. So I forgot to put my 1. It's kind of small, but hopefully y'all can see that, okay? So I have x to the third over x to the first, okay? So I take my numerator, the one on the top, 3 minus 1, that gives me x squared, okay? I go to my y's. y to the third over y to the third. Well, 3 minus 3 is 0. So that cancels out basically. So I don't have any y's. They cancel each other out. Okay? I have 0 y's. And then here, z to the second power over z to the first. 2 minus 1 gives me 1z. Okay? So it looks a little funky. So we don't actually need to write the 1 on this numerator. So I can write my final answer as x squared z over 3, right? That's the proper looking answer, okay? That's what we want. And that's the answer for number 9. So that one simplified a whole lot, okay? So that's it. So those are kind of examples of basically everything you're gonna see, okay? So again, remember, if you need to rewind, go ahead and rewind. If you need to skip ahead and look at some different examples, feel free and go ahead, okay? But if y'all have any questions, you can ask your teacher. And that's about it. So y'all have a great day. I will see y'all in Zoom.